Death in autumn, birth in spring. What do they mean? Death. What have we done with death? I've been thinking about this naturally because most of us probably are thinking about this today. I heard someone the other day giving a talk about something, and they brushed upon the idea of death, saying that we've banished death, and I thought that was a rather interesting thing to say. And then I heard somebody else who I quite admire say that they thought that the way we relate to death today is rather maudlin. And I could see both these points of view. I think our relationship with death has changed so very much, colossally actually, from what it used to be. And it's undergone various changes as we've gone through time. But today we end up really feeling that death shouldn't quite be a part of life. Death is not nice, but death is not new. People have been dying actually for millions and millions of years. And death is not only part of human life, it's part of nature. Something we often need to bear in mind is that death in nature occurs in the autumn. Death occurs when the leaves are falling from the trees, when everything dies down, when everything finishes. Nothing will grow when we get to late autumn, except the odd one or two plants that are geared up for growing in winter. But it's quite an education to be able to see this and to see how death occurs, come what may. When the leaves have to fall, they fall. And people who've worked with me know that one of my famous lines is that when a leaf falls from a tree, the tree doesn't get hold of that leaf and stick it back on again. We seem to think that we can almost reverse the process and put something back the way it was. We can't change what happens to us when we have to die. And whether we're taken by natural causes or something like the coronavirus, which is claiming a lot of lives today, death is death. It occurs. And we really need to adjust to the fact that it is a part of life. It isn't pleasant, it involves grief, and it involves a great wrench inside, I would say, having experienced death myself of a loved one. It challenges us enormously, it tests us, it makes us feel like it's the end of the world, and really it is, but momentarily. And then we think about nature and we think, does nature respond to death, respond to losing the leaves off her trees in that way? That's a good question, isn't it? It's quite a good one to ask yourself, actually. But what we always need to remember is how much birth follows death. And I think one of the biggest problems we have today is when we experience death and we understand that birth follows death, we're sort of very urgent and desperate about the situation when we think, oh, I've experienced a death, quick, quick, let's have birth, quick, quick. And we do that because we do not want to experience grief. Grief is like a huge chasm. It takes us down into the underworld. It takes us to a place we never ever want to go to, all depending how much love, we could say, has been sacrificed. If we've lost someone we love dearly, the more dearly we love them, then the more that sacrifice will be, the sacrifice of ourselves. We need to go to the depths with grief. We need to feel it as it is. Its rawness, its coldness, its tearing destruction that we feel inside. And there's no way we won't come out of that if we go through it in a natural way. And again, I return to thinking about the leaves on the trees. I return to thinking of the autumn, the way nature provides the symbolism of death every year and the symbolism of birth every year. And something, perhaps the biggest thing that we've lost when we talk about death is what comes after for the one who's died. Now, this is something that I would say we've lost completely in our modern world. Now, I'm not a let's all go into the light sort of person. I'm not the sort of person who thinks that when I die, I'm going to swim through the light up into some heavenly bliss. What we need to do is realise the ancient way of seeing this, that when we go, we are delivering ourselves into the hands of the other world. And that involves sacrifice. That involves saying to ourselves, I go and I take whatever the other world is going to give me. I go, and if I've tried my best here to live a good life, I go and I put myself in the hands of ancestors who know far more than I will ever do, unless I've lived as long as they have, and they may be thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. We have to put ourselves in the hands of someone who's more knowledgeable and more experienced than we are. And that's difficult for us to think about today, because we've got to know the answers. We've got to know exactly where we're going to go. We've got to know that when I die, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go there, I'm going to accept this, and somebody is going to meet me and we're going to be happy ever after. Stop. How do we know that the other world functions like this? Isn't it better to have a feeling of humility, so that when we go we say, I've got an idea where I might go. I would like to go to a really nice place where there's a leafy wood and maybe there's someone there I've loved and hopefully they'll come and meet me. What about humility? What about thinking, I would like to request that someone I love meets me, because they may have moved on, they may have got into other things. They may be doing all sorts of things that we don't even know about, and maybe they can instruct us on something. We must never assume or presume. I talked about this, I brushed upon it in another video, how there's a lot of assumption with us today, and we always have to assume that we know exactly what's going to happen. We're novices, we're babies, we don't understand how the other world is going to affect us, how it's going to educate us, and what's going to happen when we go. This needs thinking about an awful lot by everyone. Anyone who's thinking about death at all at the moment, if you've lost a loved one, either through present circumstances or you've lost them anyway through other circumstances, you have to allow them to go. You have to say, go, because if you love them, isn't it better to say, I will feel happy if you go and find what you need to do. And then, when I die and I come and join you, maybe you can show me what certain things are about, if it be your will, if you wish to come and see me. Humility, humility, humility and respect. That's what we need to have. So when we come back to thinking about death at this moment in time, we really need to have a fresh approach. We really need to have an ancient approach. We really need to step back and say to ourselves, I know very little about what happens after death, but I trust that I'm going to be looked after. I trust that I'm going to be shown where to go. I do not have all the answers. This is what I do. I trust. I trust that I'm going to be shown where I have to go. I trust that ancestors will be the best source of education for me. But yes, when someone said we've banished death, I believe we have. We've banished the old ideas of death. We no longer sacrifice ourselves to it. We no longer see it as a valuable and most valuable part of life. And because of that, we no longer take pains to do our best and to get ourselves in order, if you like. Get ourselves together while we're here on earth. And the other statement, that death has become maudlin, I agree with that too. I do not like any overly sentimental habits that we've developed. Death is gutsy. Death is earthy. Death is real. And death needn't be the exact end of the world when it can give us a rebirth in the other world. Numerous people have been through death before you, or your ancestors have. For thousands and thousands and thousands of years, people have been going through death. Have some faith. Have some hope. The other world isn't such a bad place, but you have to have an education in life here now. In the seasons, death in autumn, birth in spring. What do they mean? Anyway, another good idea to think about. Stay safe, stay well, take care. I'll see you again soon.